Hello everyone, this is Joe with Southeastern Frontiers, and today I'm hiking the Devil's Racetrack on Wade Mountain, just north of Huntsville, Alabama. The Devil's Racetrack is a 3.4 mile, moderately trafficked out and back trail located just north of Huntsville, Alabama. I started my hike near the Spragins Hollow Trailhead and hiked up the Devil's Racetrack Trail, which is a gentle walk through the woods past some nice little resting benches, and then it climbs more steeply up to the racetrack itself, which makes a loop around the top of the mountain. I then took a side trip onto the Shovelton and rock wall trails, which added another 3/4 of a mile to my hike or so, but passed an interesting rock wall, and otherwise was just another walk in the woods. Finally, I joined back up with the Devil's Racetrack Trail and returned to the Spragins Hollow Trailhead. The Spragins Hollow Trailhead has a nice parking area and a few picnic benches. The Devil's Racetrack is clearly marked by these little signs spaced out on the trees. It's very easy to follow. A little caterpillar crawling up its small thread of silk. Having barely gotten started down the trail, we come to a large rest area here with a set of 3 benches. Probably most useful coming back than going in. Continuing down the trail. Sinkholes along this trail are common. Don't fall in. There are lots of little benches along this trail. Gives you lots of places to rest with little ones if you're coming through with children. All right, we are at a trail junction. The rock wall trail goes off to the left there. And the Devil's Racetrack Trail continues on up this way. So we're gonna go on up to the Devil's Racetrack. Off we go. Like most rocks in north central Alabama, the rocks on Wade Mountain are mostly Mississippian era limestone, heavily eroded by water that dissolves the calcium carbonate in the rocks, making lots of very interesting features and curves and bowls and holes in the rocks. It's pretty fascinating. This is a really good example of how rainwater gradually sculpts the rocks into intricate shapes. Every drop of rain dissolves a little bit of rock and leaves these little furrows and ridges on top of the limestone. It's the process that fills these mountains with caves over time. Here's a dramatic feature of how the rain has carved out the rocks, the limestone. Look at this nice, almost circular hole right through this boulder. Probably carved initially long ago by water running below the ground level and eventually exposed to the outside. When my boys were young, they used to love to play at this hole. They thought it was the coolest window in a rock ever. So this to me is a major milestone along this trail. You can go around to the other side of the hole back here, and my kids used to have a great time with it. The Harris Trail leads off that way and goes downhill. The Wade Mountain Trail goes up that way into the opening over there. But what we really want is the Devil's Racetrack Trail, which actually goes back off this way, at least initially. And you can see the sign right here on the tree. It says Devil's Racetrack. That's what we want. I have many pleasant memories of hiking the Devil's Racetrack. When my boys were little, it was one of our most favorite hikes to do because it could be done, portions of it anyway, even by a toddler. And I could carry him the rest of the way. It wasn't too bad because it's not hard climb, it's easy to do. And at the top here, there are nice, safe rocks to play on. And the Devil's Racetrack itself is fascinating. Let me show you. Here we have come upon the Devil's Racetrack itself. This is an open grassy area on top of this mountain. There's some rocks that the oh man kids love to play on. And the trail goes off to the right and to the left. And either way, it makes a loop around this mountaintop. And it's out in the open like this in grass the whole way around. There are no trees for this one little layer of the mountain. I'm not sure why. I suspect it has to do with the minerals that are in this rock layer. Maybe the trees don't like to grow in it. But it is pretty striking, as you'll see as we continue around the loop. I will probably speed up the video here, but I wanted you to be able to see how this works, because it's pretty cool. As we get to the far end of the racetrack from where we started, we break out into an opening caused by the power lines here. When they put in the high voltage transmission lines, they cleared out all the trees. But that has given us an opportunity to see all the way to Tennessee from here. It's on a clear day, it's pretty spectacular. So this view here shows clearly how the power lines have a way cleared for them over the mountain here. That's created this open space that happened to intersect the Devil's Racetrack, which predates the power lines by a long way. You can see off to the horizon there, some smoke coming up way on the horizon. I don't know what that is. We're looking north of Huntsville towards the Tennessee border. And I know on a clear day, if you have binoculars, you can see some things that are actually over the Tennessee border, some water towers and things like that. And then to the east, you can see the mountains off there on the horizon, which are like the ones around Huntsville, continuing on up to join up with the Appalachian Mountains. A really pretty flower. It's a unique landscape along here. Different ecology, different plants and animals than you find in most hikes in this area. Different grasses, even different trees. It's very unusual. Something about this layer of the mountain here that changes everything. Ooh, it's getting deep. All right, continuing around the racetrack. And we have returned to where we started with a pile of rocks that I said kids love to play on. So there we are, a loop around the top of the mountain, the Devil's Racetrack. The rock ledge here makes a nice place to stop and take a break, get a drink of water, decide where you're going to go next. There is a small lizard on the rock right there. I don't know if you can see him or not. He's pretty small. He's maybe only 2 inches long from the tip of his nose to the tip of his tail. He's sunning himself right there on the rock, on that little ridge in the rock. I'll see if I can get closer, but I think he will scooch. There, now you can see him. Woo! Off he goes. He's over there. Of ancient marine life. They're not very big. Oh, stay focused here. They're not very big, but you can see them if you look closely at the rocks. For example, right there, and there, and right there's a little crinoid segment. That's a crinoid segment. There's a little something here. That's a little trilobite, I betcha. Very small. I need my magnifying glass. I wonder if I can get it with the camera. Yeah, that's about as close as I can get in focus. This rock here has what are known as bryozoans in it. You can see one right there. Let me get him wet so you can maybe see it better. They kind of had like fan-like structures that they put out in the water to catch food. All right, time to say goodbye to the Devil's Racetrack and head back down the mountain. So off we go back into the trees. All right, we've come back to the trail junction. The Devil's Racetrack goes off that way to head back down the way we came up. But I think since I have time this morning, I'm going to take a side trail. And I'm going to take this Harris Trail to the Shovelton Trail, to the Rock Wall Trail, and take that back to the parking lot where we started at Spragins Hollow. So let's see how this goes. The signs in this segment are labeled Shovelton. So we're going to follow that until we hit the rock wall. Come to another trail branching off. So this is where the Harris Trail heads up the mountain here. But we're going to stay on the Shovelton Trail and keep heading downhill. There's one of these little spiders I keep running into. She's reconstructing her web. But I have run into a bunch of these today on the trail. I've had to carry my staff out in front of me to clear them. They're hard to see. They're harmless, of course, but very annoying covered in their webs. Anyway, I see her, so I will duck under and let her be. I have come to the intersection with the Rock Wall and Harris Trails. Ah, an Eagle Scout project. Very nice. So I will take the Rock Wall Trail now and head back towards the Spragins Hollow parking area. Off we go. Here is the rock wall for which this trail is named. I don't know the history of this rock wall. I don't know, you can see it going off there, down the hill, and continuing up here, and along the ridge there. I do not know if this rock wall was created by European settlers when they moved into this area in the late 1700s, early 1800s, or if it predates European settlement. The Native Americans are known to have built walls in Alabama. Their mostly purpose is mysterious, but they are more common in the central part of the state, east of Birmingham, over by Fort McClellan, in that area. But I don't know. Don't know of any Native American walls up here in North Alabama, but it's a mysterious wall to me anyway. Here we're crossing the wall again. The breach in the wall right here. You can see it continues on downhill there. If someone knows the purpose or history of this wall, please leave me a comment and let me know. Very mysterious. All right, we have returned to the Devil's Racetrack. There's the sign that we saw on the way up for the Rock Wall Trail we just came out of. Right down there. This lovely little resting bench here. And that's the way back to the Spragins Hollow Trailhead, so that's where we're headed. At least along here, the cobwebs should be cleared out. Man, I was just plowing through the webs back there. Obviously, that trail has not been traveled this morning yet. It's one of the hazards of being out early. We have returned to that set of 3 benches here. So that tells us we're nearly back to the start. Not much further to go. I have returned to the Spragins Hollow parking lot and trailhead. It's been a nice day.